So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Janet Murphy Ryan here with us, and she's going to be talking about her Peace Corps service in just a second here. We're going to give people a couple more minutes to join us. While we're doing that, I'm going to put up an attendance poll, and you can just let us know if there's more than one person watching with you tonight. That helps us to know how many people we're actually engaging with these programs. So for those of you who haven't met me, my name is Anna, and I manage adult programming for the Lake Bluff Library. We are coming up on the end of our programming quarter for summer, so this is our last program of this quarter. If you're looking for what's happening in September, our newsletter will go out typically around the 1st or 2nd, and that will have all of the programming for fall, which as of this moment will include in-person presenters here at the library. Fingers crossed we can keep doing that. I really hope we can have people back here in the building this fall. Tonight's program is being recorded, and we're going to pop that up on our YouTube. It takes about 2 to 3 days for us to get that downloaded, uploaded, and ready for you guys. But I will send out an email with that link to everyone who registered. So if you know somebody who couldn't make it tonight, please share that with them. As far as questions, Janet's going to take those at the end. So if you think of them, feel free to pop them in the chat throughout, and we'll read those out at the end, or at the end of the Zoom. I will change the settings so that you can unmute yourself and ask questions. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now. Thank you everyone for participating. Okay, Janet, how are we feeling? Are we ready to do this?
Yes, it's ready to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It is all yours. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Janet Murphy Ryan, and I'm going to give you a little summary of my Peace Corps journey to Republic of Namibia. I am a returned Peace Corps volunteer. I was evacuated in March of 2020. A little background on Peace Corps for those of you who aren't aware. It was established in 1961 from John F. Kennedy, and a new agency within the United States, the Department of State. We have 3 missions. The Peace Corps mission is to promote world peace and friendship. And it really works. There's 3 goals we have to fulfill. The first goal is to help other countries meeting their needs for trained workers. And that's what I was there sent for. I was stationed in Namibia and as a math and science teacher. So the 3 goals of Peace Corps are really wonderful, and they work for world peace. It's incredible how coming together like this, when you go to a country to teach them skills to help. And then the second goal is to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. So the second goal, for example, there were many people in Namibia who thought that Americans, the children on Halloween, actually that we worship Satan. So that would be an example of how to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. There are a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings that affect world peace all around the globe on a small scale, such as Halloween misconceptions, to very much larger scales. The third goal, which is what I'm thankful to be able to come here tonight, and I'm honored that you've asked me to come, is to promote a better understanding of the people on the parts of the Americans. And this is where I'm bringing Namibia home to you. And it's part of the goal of Peace Corps is that's how the peace comes, when we now understand Namibians. I don't know how many of you have had know much about Namibia, but here's a small map. It's in the far southwest corner of the continent of Africa, as you can see. It butts up on the Atlantic Ocean, and then just to the north is Angola. The finger that you see sticking out into the end is like this. I don't know if you can see me. Anna, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I can see nobody. But This is, we always, in some of my photos, you'll see us going like this. So if my wrist would be Angola, and then you have Botswana, uh, Zambia, Zimbabwe is about 200 meters this side. It's an incredible country for the size, very small populated. The sky is incredible. It's one of the most beautiful skies I've ever seen. People come from all around the world to look at it. Astronomers, there are several places outside in near Susisflay, which is about 110 meters from where I actually lived, that produces this type of sky. Here's in the south, it's very dry. This is me jumping up in the air when I was on a site visit to Quest. It's this, the Namibia is the Namib Desert, and then the Kalahari Desert takes up the entire side off to the southwest. The driest country in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's amazing that it's so unpopulated. The density, it's the least densely populated country in the world next to Angola, which is number one. And when I would travel to the north or to the south, being a Peace Corps volunteer, I would still run into people I know or who knew me and what I was doing and what projects I was working on. It's incredible. To give you an idea of the size of it is about twice the size of California, to give you an idea. I already mentioned about the deserts. It's known for all of the wildlife, elephants, zebras, they call them instead of zebras. The black rhino was endangered and we've got it under control now. There's more cheetahs than any place in the world. And as a result, they are somewhat endangered with people trying to catch them. I have some, just one or two slides on with some cheetahs that are being rescued. There are also great tourist attractions. It's a balance between maintaining the wildlife and keeping the people fed, the Nama and all of the other tribes having some sort of an income. It's a democracy with elected president, 2-house parliament, system of courts, and it has the highest sand dunes in the world. And you can actually try to ski down them, which I did. Here's an example of this is outside of Windhoek, and then the sky again. The picture of me on the bottom is on the Skeleton Coast in the northeast. So I don't know how many of you are aware of the apartheid that took place. The reason why Namibia was in the situation they were in the late 1800s to early 1900s, the Germans had occupation and wanted to do a genocide took place in 1904. They conducted a intense effort to get rid of all the Namibians, in particular coming from the south, where they crossed over from down by the Orange River, which is on the tip of Namibia, all the way up, pushing the Herrera and the Nama tribes to the north. They decided the way they could get rid of them was to get rid of the food and water sources. So they were forced into the desert, the Kalahari to the right, and then to Shark Island up by Luderitz, which is on the coast down here. This side is where they held many of them prisoners. They could not get off the island because the sharks would eat them. And it's just really heartbreaking when you go down and see these areas. 79, I believe, roughly percent of the Ochi, Herrera, and Nama were unable to survive. And then what's important to note is when I was there, I had the good fortune of um, in 2018, Gehobes, the Germans returned some of the skulls and the repatriated human remains to Namibia, which is a great step forward, and put forth an apology and recognition that this had occurred. It was a historical moment. Hannah, my slides are not moving. Here we go. Okay. So these slides right here are the Exodus into exile and about the education. It's in a museum in Windhoek, and it talks about, I don't want to go into the whole history of it, I want to get into my service, but it is important to understand that this occurred because of the tension that exists still in country. This is in Windhoek Heroes Acre, which is where the survivors and the leaders who fought against the Germans during this time are buried here, back behind this steeple. So Namibia is one of the third wealthiest countries in the continent of Africa. However, that wealth is shared by about 1 to 3%. We're not needed in Namibia. We were invited by the minister after gaining independence in 1990 to rebuild the education center first and foremost. That's where I came in. That was my department. It's called SUPEP, the upper primary schools. What I worked with, and I'm a scientist. I worked in research and development, formerly as an immunologist and clinical chemist, and many years of teaching. Peace Corps, we also are in 2 other projects with health and community economic development. So the education is dire need. There still have places that are on location. You walk across, there's no education like there is for the white Afrikaners. And we're trying to make it better, and we're doing great strides forward. I'm sorry, it's very hard to talk to you when I can't see your faces. The flag, this slide was for a junior high school, I believe, so it's a little basic, but it is important to understand that the whole reason the flag exists is for the turmoil, it's for the people, what they've gone through. The red in the center is the people. The 2 white lines on the other side is for peace and tranquility, harmony and unity. Okay, they've struggled so much for so long. And there are days when I'm in country that we're required to wear all white to represent the peace. There's a Namibian day, actually, when everybody dresses in white. The blue, of course, represents the sky and the ocean, and the other areas that have water, which are mostly in the north, and the green, the culture, and the yellow is the sun. So the languages, there's many, as you can see. Where I was stationed, my language was Kokoi. Kokoi Goab is the clicking language. And there's 4 clicks, and I'll try to teach you a couple of those later when we get to that part. And the official language in country is English. However, it's British English. And when I came back in country, although I was not there that long, my children said I spoke very strange. You had to use your inflections at the end in a different manner so that they could understand you. The other language, Afrikaans and German, which was brought over from the pre-apartheid with some Dutch influence as well. Ochi Herrera is the language spoken by the Herrera. And then we have the other language that I speak is the Hosani is the same as the San. They're some of the oldest languages in Africa. You may have known them as those of you who are probably familiar with the Bushmen, the Bush people. There is still a tribe of them. It's very small numbers, but they still exist and live very similar to their ways for thousands of years. So Oshiwambo, you can say Waralepo Nawa, and that's a way of greeting that everybody needs to know because over half of the people in Namibia speak this language. They're very hardworking, gracious, fun-loving, very smart, and wonderful tribe. Kwangwali is also called Rukwangwali, the ones that I met. All of these next street languages are spoken along the Okavango River near the Zambezi, which is up in this portion. And the north is very different from the south where I was. I never in my life thought I'd end up in the middle of the desert after having spent my life around water and with trees. I was wondering what would happen to me when I got my assignment, and it turned out to be really life-changing. The last language, Setswana, is, well, there it has 10,000 speakers. Solosi is another language that is actually in Zambezi, which is a beautiful region. You have all of the people coming from Zimbabwe, Zambia, and it's an important region because of the bulk of the agriculture, the vegetables comes from that region for the entire rest of the country, which is very arid. So Namibia, it's surprising that has 1% of the land is arable, but 1/3, 33% of the population are trying to make their living in agriculture. And this, here comes my language, Kokoikoab, KKG. And I wish I could have you guys raise your hands and tell me if any of you speak it. There's 4 clicks. And I originally learned Afrikaans when I was in pre-service. In Okahanja, we were there for just shy of 3 months. And during this time, all of the Peace Corps, we met going over safety and security, all the rules of Peace Corps, the culture, how to survive the hiking. So at my age, if you can imagine, not being able to drive a car in by sundown, we had to lock ourselves in for the burglary, and the theft is high. No shebeens. Shebeens are bars. And we would have to go to a hiking point to get a car, and from there, so it wasn't hitchhiking. You had to prearrange it. It was very complicated initially, and in the end, when you go to the site, people would grab all your bags and they would fight over you, and sometimes take your stuff and throw it in somebody else's car because they wanted your money, and you're grabbing it back and you're literally being torn. So, but it was really works out knowing those things were really important to understand during those 3 months. This is just a quote about eating. I don't know if any of you there are out that know how much I love to eat. One of the things, the reason I put this quote in, of the delights of eating, of life is eating with friends, is that in Namibia, it's critical to how you're received when one eats. Even if you have a handful of food, it's important to share it with everyone. You would never ever dream of eating something and not offering it to someone else. That is extremely rude, and it's changed the way I eat now. And I'm sorry it's not working again. So these next 2 photos are of some of my colleagues. The one on the left, Scotty and I were very close he was like a surrogate son. We were close in vicinity as well as character. And the one on the right his language was Afrikaans, and he was close to my host family. So when we were in our pre-service, each one of us, I was in group 48, And there were 54 of us originally as volunteers. And each one of us was placed with a host family in Okahanja to learn our target language. As I said, my language that I learned was Afrikaans. And in the end, when I went to my village, here's going more of the food. In the end, I needed to learn another language. This is pap you see this in the center to the left. Pap is a rice. If you've ever eaten Ethiopian food, it's somewhat similar to that. And you always eat it with your only in one hand, and then you would use your right hand or to pick it up, and you would dip it in these different sauces. So when we were in Okahanja, each region that we were going to be sent to has their own food and culture. These were staples actually that I ate in my flat after I left my pre-service. Popcorn and homemade French fries. There was no vegetables in my village to speak of. I had to go 110 kilometers to a shopping town, and I could not always get there. The last thing toward the end of our 3 months, we did a culture day, during which time we, with our host families, we all got together and we cooked for them as a thank you, and using all the traditional foods. So we were 9 different languages, and we all shared together. So we had to learn how to butcher goats and chickens. Didn't like getting all the feathers out so much. Down here below, this is poche, they call it. And they don't use any electricity. It's all done by wood fire, and it gets very hot and it's quite delicious. We would also fry bread in there, as well as cooking the chickens to get the feathers off and all of this. What they're doing here to the upper left is we're taking the scales off of the fish with the group from the north. And so I had trouble uploading some of my slides, but they're also the Oshiwambu from the north. They take the goat. When we butcher the goat, I left those slides out for you. Didn't think anybody wanted to see all of that. But we also eat every single part of the goat, including the ears are soft and delicious, actually. And I never thought I'd be saying that. And the heads, they cook the heads and you eat part of the brain as well. And they cook for a very long time. So this is some of the dress that one of the Peace Corps volunteers with the hat, that is the traditional Ochi Herrera costume. It is fashioned that way after to resemble a cow. It was as a protection from the men at the time when they were driving them north, the Germans. And the dresses is actually, they used to wear at least 8 layers of dress to try to prevent the men from trying to rape them. And that's why the style came about. And so the Ochi Herrera women obviously do not wear this every day. It's more like when we're doing a special occasion or something like this, as a prideful costume. This man here is a dear friend of mine holding the bucket. He is the one who maintained the facility that we use for our in-service training for 3 months with Peace Corps. And down below here, they are making pop. This is with the group of the Afrikaners I was with, and we are making roosterbrot and sweet bread, where you braid it and then you boil it with kind of a honey coating. So part of our training was to understand the history of Namibia. We went to Windhoek, and this is at the outside of the museum I was telling you about, near Heroes Acre. And then for our self-care and our wellness, we would climb to Pride Rock. Here you always see us doing this. This is our representing Namibia. It was very hot, very dry. They were in a drought when I arrived of 3 years. So you don't see much green here at this time. Here we are back at the ranch, so to speak, back at where we lived. There were 8 of us in a room, and we had to also lock ourselves in there each night. Here we are eating. This is with the Hardap region. PCV is Peace Corps volunteers. We would get together, if possible, for a meal. This was a Thanksgiving we shared. My first homestay was with white Afrikaners. And I was really worried about, after learning some of the history, I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to think I'm an Afrikaner. And in the end, we are all part of understanding that there is no color. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but when I came there, I hadn't lived ever before I spent time in Kenya and Tanzania, but never actually living where you cross over into a location. And they actually, and this little girl, they didn't have any children, but this little girl really was, I think, one of their nieces, and was a joy and made my stay there much better, because my host family worked all day long. They didn't really speak with me. They came home late at night. So it was great to have this extended family. And here's 2 of the brothers. And you see this boy here, he was the other Peace Corps volunteer that I befriended. Some more, we would do yoga once a week, Wellness Wednesday. I couldn't live without my coffee. This is on the wall of my flat, something that my daughter had written me in French. I have 3 daughters. I was the only Peace Corps volunteer there who was married and with children. There was another woman there whose husband had passed away. So I really needed to draw deep on my family's strength, and I couldn't have done it without their support. I'm getting now down into some of I want to touch upon the health and safety that Peace Corps gave us. The malaria, we have the risk map for malaria. I was not in they call it the red zone, if you see where Namibia has the red zone. But I was with a group. I helped with camps, which required me to go to the north or travel at times. And if you have to leave shorter than 2 weeks, you wouldn't be able to go, because all of these malaria meds require I had to start with it. So I took it every day the whole time I was there. We also had to cover ourselves, and the malaria is no joke. We had lost a Peace Corps volunteer, I believe, 5 years back from malaria. Scorpions, I'll just suffice it to say 59 species. There's 10 Peace Corps expectations that they have of us that we have to follow. And I'm cognizant of, I want to get to where I can show you some of my site with my learners. One of the most important things that I found, I like what this Letitia says, it's everything that you do in Peace Corps is sustainable, and nothing else matters until you have developed that trust and confidence in integrating yourself into their society. It took me a long time to integrate, and I'll explain why later, but it's really important. People don't know that you care, don't care what you know until they know that you care. And it takes time for people to get that. My site visit was in Kwes, in Kitmansub, which is in the south. This is a picture of the former Peace Corps volunteer. This fellow here was the janitor. And we ended up talking, he taught me some kokoi, And I came to find a lot about the culture with the Nama. So now I was my first introduction to the South, because my pre-service was in Okahanja in the North. Completely different culture in the South. The Nama are a nomadic tribe, and they feel that there's nothing wrong with a woman having children before marriage. In fact, they feel that that gives them more worth, many of the old school, because they know that they are fertile. These are the groups that there were 2 other Peace Corps volunteers with us. Actually, we weren't full-fledged volunteers yet. We were still going through our service. And there were some volunteers who didn't complete their service because of several reasons. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. This is when we were traveling actually down and back. Okay, so I'm going to, fingers crossed, that I want to play you I'm going to show this one video, which you can hear. It was at this site where I just showed you. And this is, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so what the sounds you will hear are the clicks. There are 4 clicks in the Khoikhoi language. The first one is that, the second one is that, this third one is that, and then the fourth one is that. If you hear the differences, and the last one is like, it took me a long time to get, you have to practice like you're scooping peanut butter off the roof of your mouth, and you will hear them distinctly here in this sound. This is a group of women and girls I stumbled upon, and they sing very beautifully.
Kolomsi, kolomsi, naman kape kape bona. 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 So good.
I'm going to stop it there, and then so you could hear those clicks very distinctly. And then the next thing that's important to understand about the Nama is their dance. So this next video is with the same group we call them learners, not students, and you will see the boys dancing. That is the Khoikhoi Goab. And there is only one school in the world that I know of that teaches it as a language, and it is in Cape Town in South Africa. And I'd love to go there for a semester. The Khoikhoi Kebab, my Nama learners, it's their maternal language, and it's offered in the schools. Okay, so we called ourselves Namely after all the Peace Corps volunteers of all the pros and cons that we go through together. It's a lot of work. We were working actually 12 hours a day, probably. We'd have work to do at night, and then we did a teaching in town while we were there as well, and all the preps were working well into the wee hours. Each one of us had a site. I was supposed to be the most likely to strike up a dance with the loco. And it was really great. Here's inside to give you an idea of where we were working with tables. Well, actually, this is after hours, but this is the space, and we would be working very hard every day and night. This is Sarah Wood and Paulina Kavanga, who were instrumental in getting us to where we needed to be. Our country director is Kevin Fleming. He's now the director of all of Africa for Peace Corps, an exceptional man. So once we made it through all of this, we finally became officially Peace Corps volunteers and we were sworn in. And again, this was a very special ceremony. We made our own dresses. So in Namibia, you pick out like this one, you pick out the material and then they make you your dress for you that day, or you can make your own. So the school I was chosen to go to was called, at the time, Daveb Junior Secondary School. And it had just become a senior secondary school when I was there the second year. And their motto is perseverance brings success. This is us with my colleagues. This is after a dinner party that we're having under a camelthorn tree. There is nothing on the walls. There are no murals. The whole school needs to be painted. It's in disrepair. It was from the White Afrikaner School from up till 1990, and nothing's really been done to it since that time. I was taught supposedly physics, life science, English, and arts. However, I was only supposed to teach one subject, and I ended up doing life science, English, and arts. And there were no resources, so these paintings were done for a education week, whereby we would get cardboard and then color them white, and just from the scraps, and it worked out really well for arts to have a canvas. So here are the keys. This is very special when we made it to secondary school. This might be in Afrikaans, I think. So this is a special moment to have this. The two buildings behind us enabled us to expand up to grade 11 for the first time. In my school, the majority do not make it past grade 9. And the employment means that the best you could ever do would be to be cleaning toilets. So it's a very low income unless you make it to grade 10 or 11. It's still not a high school, which is something I want very much to have happen. One of the things that I did when I was there was Peace Corps in the north was very organized for Camp Ya, youth in empowerment and health, and then Camp Glow, which is girls and guys rising up to make a better life for themselves, which teaches values and life skills that they can then bring back to the school, and the success rate goes way up. So these two were the first ones ever from the Hardap region, Llewellyn and Nadine, that I got in this camp. And we finally, down in the south, all the Peace Corps volunteers work very hard with facilitators in country from Namibia to put together this program. And they came back gung-ho and started up a club after school called Rise Up. And what that meant was for a better life. And so they could have some things going on after school. They talked about sexual education, how to prevent disease. I taught grade 8 learners. These are some of my boys. And of my 180 learners, I had 60%, 60, who were orphans because their parents had died of AIDS or HIV. And I'm getting a little choked up here because it doesn't need to be that way. I lost a brother to AIDS, and it's just, it's very real there. It's a little pocket down there in the South, and they're making huge strides forward. Okay, so right now these boys you see here, most of them are age 13 to, and I see one of them is a 17-year-old. My learners ranged from age 13 to 21 in grade 8. The reason why is because if they fail English, they can retake it the same year, but if they fail twice, they are moved forward. It's a problem, and that means that this is how they can get in grade 8 and still not be able to speak English. So I was working very hard on having them do vocal. And this is
questions about family here.
and
The first question is,
the assignment was to talk about their family. Okay. And what it means.
what is family there for?
To have you in support in
Okay, so you can see that some of them were successful. Others had never really spoken out loud in English before. I do want to notice that this on the background do now. I would have them as soon as they came in. I had an assignment, something to do for life science and something to do for English. And it really helped them get on track right away. One of the other things that I did, and I apologize for the angle, this will go right as soon as I play it, was the outside of the school, the beautification of the school. We had just gotten okay before I was evacuated to get some paint and coming together on what the direction was for me to go to finish out my service before I was evacuated. But this one, they are picking up, and here is one of the jingles they came up with for English.
Wait. I'm gonna film this. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, ready? Let's do our songs. Get in there.
Reuse, recycle. Reuse, refuse, recycle. That's one.
So reduce, reuse, recycle was where I was trying to tie in together what we were doing in life science with the English. And here are some of the older boys. These are grade 10 and 11 who really got into it.
if you're happy and you know we clean up, clean up. If you're happy and you know we live you where we want to, so we live you happy and you know we clean up, clean up.
Okay, so they really did an excellent job of cleaning. These are my learners. Actually, before this was the Prime Minister was here this day, and we were having a meeting outside. They were getting ready to bless opening up a clinic, but the learners came and did a dance. So this is a traditional Nama dance. What you see them wearing comes from the pre-apartheid time when they didn't have clothes, and it's very similar to our quilts. They call it patchwork, and they're very proud of it. Okay. So, quick shot at the north. It's much more green. This is on, I believe, the Kavango River. And I just want you to be aware that there is water and there are trees and it is green. I took out a lot of the videos where I was going crazy with the rain because I hadn't seen rain or smelled it. And we finally got the lilies in the lily pan in Malta here to grow. And if I have time, I can show you that. But I just want you to see the difference in the terrain heading north. Coming back to my school now, this was on a readathon week, and we were working on also helping with education and making signs for the school. We did a all school seminar, and with speakers. It was very successful to empower and preserve the planet. So I did not have many textbooks, and I would have maybe one book, and I had 180 learners. So how do I teach them? So a lot of times I would draw things on the board. I did have a chalkboard, or use, keep in mind that I was living about the same level as all the other people there, so I couldn't really tap into my own resources. The learners have, like, they would take a journal, and they did get stationery that was provided for them, and when they got it, but sometimes they wouldn't get it until maybe 1 or 2 months into the semester. So then they would write their notes down in that, and that would become their textbook. I would use popsicle sticks and call their names out. It was a way for me to get to know them quickly, because there was just one of me and 180 of them. This is one of the things that I worked hard on trying to do, was to digitize the timetable for the school. We had 11 teachers. When I left, there were 13, and they were doing everything by hand. So it was and it took forever. We'd be on, and we had a 7-day work table, and trying to work that out by hand was crazy. We went to Luderitz with some other Peace Corps volunteers for collaboration, which is on the coast this side, and got a lot of work done there. Quickly show you the difference in the terrain. Here's some of my Peace Corps volunteers. Here is a woman I befriended who helped a lot with sewing and with fabric. This is Luderitz is where the diamonds from the south down here brought a lot of wealth into the country in Namibia, and they became smaller and smaller and go up against the coast here, is where they would mine the diamonds. The Namibian flag. Okay, here, my name of my village was Malta here. This is getting there. Here's everything I owned in the world that was there with me for 27 months. Here's my teacher's flat. Again, the sky and the rainbow. This is what I daily had to pull out of my feet, camel thorns. One time I nailed my thong through to my toe. All my laundry was done by hand, and I would stomp on it and then hang it outside. Here is my learners with their traditional gear and the Nama goats. So it takes about 700 hectares to raise a family of goats minimum. And they were in a drought, so many of the goats were dying. I'm going quickly through the Kokwe Goab. I had to change my language. When I first walked over from where I was staying in town initially, I walked to location, and there was a drunken Nama woman who hissed at me, and she said, "Who let you into our country?" And in the end, and then I get to the location where I was living. It's only 2 kilometers from town. And oh gosh, they said, "Why are you speaking that language?" So anyway, I learned Kokwe Goab, or tried to, and these were my best learners, the best mentors. They would follow me home, they'd run around me, and I'd go on a run, and then they would give me little lessons. This girl is Nadira, was my neighbor. I do want to say this: resiliency is required for Peace Corps, and heart is essential, because you really are seeing with your heart, and you say to each other, "I see you," means you understand. This is getting back to the where I tried to digitize. This was my textbook. I would draw the drawings out for the science on the wall and then show it to them the next day. The first year was very late hours. Readathon week. I want to go forward to, I'm getting close to the time here. This was one of the best things that that I think that they responded to. We did a wellness week. So we had a Mellow Monday, a Tenseless Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday, and then on Thursday we did a non-bullying thing. And on Friday I taught them how to play Frisbee. They'd never done that before. And then we marched around the town of Malta here and did actually an anti-bully march, which was really well received. This is my school. You can see the new building and then the old one behind. Do now is what I do on the top. And I think I'm going to skip through this video. I became a bridge between cultures, between all the different tribes. There were at least 6 different tribes in my village. And in the end, everybody was embracing me. And I finally was at a point where I had just gotten a grant, the paperwork for a grant to get a science lab so that they could have a high school. I'm getting a little emotional, and I was evacuated. I had 3 hours to pack. I had no electricity that day, so I didn't know what was going on. And I came home, I threw some fabric in a suitcase, and I had 1 hiking boot filled with malaria meds, and that was it. I didn't get to say goodbye to anyone. I have been in touch with them, and I want to show you the last 2 slides I think I've got. This is the janitor from our school, Auntie Mina, and we make woestebrot. I would make bread with my hands. I don't even measure anything anymore. And anytime we do a braai, which is like what we call our barbecue, then we would always make the bread. Donkey carts are notorious, the way they get around in Malta here to bring, and here I am with the White Afrikaner farm with the cheetah that they've rescued. And my learners, the fabric, tree planting. I wanted to plant some fruit trees. They're very hungry. They eat the paper in my dustbin. I coached athletics. I was proud to see some of them that made it in the Olympics. I did an International Women's Day. And the final farewell, the beautiful skies of Namibia. Ubuntu, I say to you, I am because you are. Thank you for listening and being here with me and giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of Namibia with you tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Janet. Yeah, let me turn
If we have time.
the setting on there so people can unmute themselves if they'd like. And I'll also keep an eye on the chat if anyone would like to post in there. So you mentioned that you were evacuated very quickly. That was due to the pandemic?
Yes, it was. Were closing the borders down.
But you didn't know at the time what was going on?
No, because my power had gone out. It was on a Monday morning. And so we were evacuated. I had to be out of my village on it. Well, they're supposed to give you 72 hours, but I had just a few hours. So it's crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we couldn't get out of the country. They closed Angola, then they closed Johannesburg. And then we couldn't get out there. We ended up going to Ethiopia. The Peace Corps worked very hard for us to get us out. They chartered a plane on the last 300 on the continent from Madagascar. And I think the ones from Ghana came and we all got out.
Oh my, that's sounds like a whole lot of work to get everybody together.
Yes.
Yeah.
7,000 of us were evacuated. First time ever in the history of Peace Corps.
Wow, it's a lot of people to
Yes.
move that quickly. Yeah. We do have a question in the chat asking, why did you join the Peace Corps and was it different from what you expected it to be?
Well, I joined the Peace Corps because for me, it was a dream deferred. It's something I had always wanted to do. I had planned to do it in Kenya my first year out of college, and but was unable to. And so it's not something that was new for me. I had planned to some years back do it. It wasn't anything new. That's something I had planned. And yes, it was very different. I had originally thought I wanted to choose the country. I'm bilingual in other languages. And I was going to choose 2 other countries. And then they asked me, or would you rather go where you're most needed? And I thought, well, I'm here to serve. So, I've always pretty much volunteered my life away, but I thought that I would do that. And it was very different. It's truly that old expression, it's the toughest job you ever love. It took me a long time to transition for many reasons, but it was everything and more. I think they taught me more than I taught them, and I'll never be the same.
So your service was 2 years? Was that the plan?
It was supposed to be 27 months.
Okay.
And but so I had another 9 months to go, I think. So yeah.
Is it something you'd consider doing again?
Actually, absolutely. I was asked to reinstate, and I had also they had asked me to do a emergency response team with other Peace Corps volunteers that were evacuated this summer in country for COVID. But the situation is that I am also older. I became an Oma, which is a grandmother. So I have it depends on my family situation.
Absolutely. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we can either wrap now, or if you want to see if we can find that video of the dancing.
So this is us continuing on from Quest. This gives you an idea of the caliber of dancers. All the Namibians dance very similarly, and the adults as well. But the crowd kept getting bigger and bigger, and because we were there filming, and so there is a swimming pool here. This is in a school that was the same situation as mine, a white Afrikaner with a pool. And these kids, the boys had been swimming in the pool, so that's why they're dressed like this. They don't normally wear that. So here we go.
It's pretty good. Look at the little one go. Good. That's really good.
I'm going to close it there. It goes on. There's so many videos of dancing, but I just cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that we got to have you here to share your experience with us. And we look forward to seeing you at the library again as we transition here. Everything's still changing, but we're doing our best to keep up.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We're going to end here. So have a great night, and I hope to see all of you here soon too.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Janet.